Good evening, everyone, and welcome to tonight's Executive Committee meeting. My name is Asjad Mahmood. I'm the chairman of this Executive Committee and leader of the Council. We'll do introductions to my left.
Hello, my name is Dean Langton. I'm the Chief Executive of the Council.
Well, I'm Karen Spence, the Director of Resources for the Council.
Hi, good evening. I'm Philip Spur, Director of Police.
Brian Newman, Fence and Hire.
Dorothy Lord, Waterside and Horsfield.
Mohammed Ahmed Bradley.
Zafar Ali, Briarfield East and Clover Hill.
Mohammed Hanif, Briarfield West and Wheatley.
Sarah Whitwell, Head of Housing and Environmental Health.
Sorry, Ryan, you.
Ryan, I missed you. Sorry, Ryan. Go on, Ryan.
I just done.
We've done it. Oh, sorry, I missed that. So, Neil Watson, I'm Assistant Director for Planning.
Jane Watson, Democratic Services Manager.
Howard Culshaw, Head of Legal and Democratic Services and the Council's Monitoring Officer.
Sarah Coburn-Price, Bullsworth and Foulridge.
Davy Coburn-Price, Bullsworth and Foulridge.
Sorry, Councillor.
Glen Whitaker, Avian Courts Ward.
Thank you.
Diane Anderson, Abbey Town Council.
Thank you for that. So, the first item is declaration of interest. Councillor Zafar.
Item 4, potentially on item 4, as a Nelson Town Councillor, there may be some remarks and comments affecting Nelson Town Council. And item 5 on Trafalgar House, I will leave the meeting at item 5.
Thank you. Councillor Hanif.
No, it's okay. Item 6 I was going to discuss. We don't have to declare interest as a town council, do we?
Yeah.
Howard.
Yes, but you are allowed to take part in the
That's fine, thank you.
Just seek advice as well, Howard. I was a member of Penbrook Board.
Yeah,
Yeah.
same here.
Have to leave. That's fine. Thank you. So I'm very interested in that as well as a member of Pembroke Board in relation to Trafalgar House.
Sorry, can I just check that's on items 4 and 5, is that?
No, just item 5.
Item 5.
See,
Fine.
I've got no idea, I've just been told to declare interest. You member of Pearl?
Pearl, no, you don't. Pearl's not.
No, Pearl's not. Okay,
Pearl's
sorry, take that back.
Councillor David.
Items 4 and 6. I'm a Cone Town Councillor and also a trustee of SEA.
And I'm exactly the same.
Thank you for that. Can I just remind everyone that, when we're talking on the agenda items, just to stay focused and stick to the agenda items that we're discussing. And yeah, just to, like I say, stay focused on that. I've got public question time. I've got any questions from members of the public on issues which do not appear on the agenda. Got Alan? Yeah, sure.
Yep. I was told by yourself in an email that the council's been open and transparent about this whole cemetery process. I've got to say that's not what we have seen. Just hold it there. Given that comment, I have 5 questions to further support of Councillor Ali's questions, which I think was sent to you yesterday. All these questions relate to your consultants, page 19, which is on the portal. Your own report states there should be at least 1 metre between the base of a grave and the water table. Borehole 4, groundwater at 0.73 on the 2nd of the 7th of 25. Can the Chief Exec explain how this site meets EA guidance when your own documents say it needs 1 metre?
Okay. So if you ask all the questions, then we'll come back.
I know where this
to
is
you.
going. Don't I? Question 2. Reference to the 1848 map showing a small farm located around the site boundary with the well. The active well on site from that period, can the Chief Exec confirm if the applicant identified this well in their Condition 7 admission? Yeah, we're going to have to keep going, aren't we? Given page 9 acknowledges historical farms and water features on the 1848 map, why was borehole 7 sited 24 metres away from an active well? This is with a 50-metre exclusion zone for cemeteries. Why was this breach not disclosed in Condition 7 discharge? Question 4. Warns of shallow perched water tables and lenses in clay soil, causing the water to drain into graves. Borehole 4 shows 0.73 of a metre, perched water in July. What assessment has been done to show the graves won't fill with water in winter, and why was this risk not in Condition 7? And your own report, once again on page 9, says shallow perched water will flood the graves. This is your consultant. And grey water from burials can carry bacteria and must be treated as hazardous. Borehole 4 is 0.73. Borehole 7 is 24 metres from the well. How is that safe? And then we'll finish off with, since you knew these consultants were sacked by another council, and since you have awarded a contract that violates standard public procedure, procurement financial standing rules, will you issue an immediate stop notice tonight, or are you prepared to face personal legal liabilities of a criminal fraud investigation into the loss of millions of pounds of public funds? And just to finish off, the Environment Agency is doing a investigation into this matter.
Yeah, thank you for your questions. Yeah, I mean, we've had detailed discussions. We've had a meeting with yourself, I think it was last month, with your colleague and also Councillor Azhar Ali. We tried to alleviate, and answer most of your questions, and we responded to all the emails that have been sent through. And I think there was an email yesterday from, like you kind of touched on with Councillor Ali, and I think also the questions are very similar, so we will respond to those. In relation to being open and transparent, we have been open and transparent throughout this process. And obviously this has been going on for about the last, couple of years. And, we were involved, we've gone through a proper planning process. The planning has been approved. The Environmental Agency has been involved. They've been satisfied. Also, in relation to the Environmental Agency permit, that has to be issued at the end, to my knowledge, to operate the site. Can I finish? Can I finish? Can I finish? Yeah. So you've had your chance to kind of speak. So I think and I think the issue there was some signature that was missing, which has been rectified, and some a link, so that the application has been submitted to the Environmental Agency for the permit, and that due process will take place. In relation to putting a stop notice. Look, we've gone through a lot of due diligence over the last. I think you came here in March, and because the works were supposed to start in March, April time. So because of the questions you raised and the issues you raised, we did generally pause and went back and did a lot of due diligence, very in-depth due diligence with our own works and the the company that's going to be carrying out the works, and we are of the view that we are satisfied of the whole process and everything that we are proposing to do. Some of the other questions, I think we can respond. Yeah, I'll ask indeed the Chief Executive to come
if you
through.
provide us with the questions, then we'll provide a response as we have done on several other occasions, and I think we've done that satisfactorily. I mean, you've had your say.
Yeah.
So if you provide us with the questions, we'll happily provide answers to them where we can do. And as I say, we've done that on several occasions. So I don't think it's reasonable to claim that we haven't been open and transparent. I should say, this whole process has been through the council's planning process. It's received planning consent. There is an application for a permit gone into the Environment Agency, and as I said when we met, then I would expect the Environment Agency to do their work, do their due diligence, deal with all of the issues that you've raised with us, and I suspect with them. So they will issue a permit or they won't issue a permit. The feedback I get is there are no issues with the application and that a permit should be issued in due course. But nevertheless, happy to answer the questions if you send them through to us.
Thank you. Just a very quick point.
It is.
Sure.
Anyone listening on the YouTube can hear quite clearly. Back here, I don't think I'm the only one. We seriously are struggling hearing you.
Okay, that's fine.
That really does need addressing.
Okay. So any more questions from members of the public on issues which do not appear on the agenda? No. Thank you for those. So if you can give us the questions, we'll look into those. Next item is the minutes of the meeting. Thank you. Second. Thank you. Item 4 is proposed asset transfers to town and parish councils. Wave 2, incorporating position update on Wave 1. So I'm happy to move the report as set out. I think we've made some significant progress with working with all the different town and parish councils, and things are progressing at some speed. And I think the report itself, kind of is very clear, lays out the very detailed recommendations there. Councillor Zafar Ali.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I just want to thank officers also for their interaction throughout this process. There's obviously a significant number of assets. Let's take Nelson, for example. It's nearly £2.6 million worth of assets, which the Town Council is obviously addressing. We had meetings with Philip Moresdale, who everybody knows, and it was a productive meeting again. So I just want to put my thanks on behalf of the Town Council to officers. Things are progressing, as you quite rightly say. Insofar as Nelson Town Council is concerned, there's a full council meeting to take place in September, and there will be further speed added to a number of assets that it has identified to ensure that these assets are protected for the use of the community whilst we go through this process of change with the new unitary as well. So I just thought I'd bring that to your attention.
Thank you for that. Are you seconding that?
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you. Councillor David Corbyn-Price.
Yes, just a couple of quick questions. Obviously, I'm pleased that the transfers are being progressed and information is being supplied to the various town and parish councils, and they're all doing their bit to assess them, etc., and give you the appropriate feedback. I know, of course, that sometimes it's a challenge to get the financial information, and the report says obviously that sometimes you can't. It's all lost in the council finances in pots of money here, rather than broken down by assets. So it's good that you can give estimates at least to the council, so they understand the costs. Two specific questions. Just making sure. I think we talked last time about the Wave 1 ones with various things like the garage sites, which are income generating, and you mentioned some income generating things in Para 1.9. That's still all the work is still going ahead, so that they can then be transferred with effect from the 1st of April. That's correct, I think, is it? Yeah, thought so. Good. And the second point was in Para 2.3. it talks about transfers with a covenant to protect the use for future benefit of residents and stakeholders. There may be some other sorts of community benefit on a case-by-case basis. How restrictive actually is that? So let's say a council, it might, I mean, I know there's lots and lots of little patches of land and little car park sites and all these sorts of bits and bobs everywhere. If one of the town and parish councils said, we want to dispose of that, or I don't know, develop it, for example, put a house on a corner of a street, for example, would that be permitted under such a covenant?
So the Chief Executive.
So through you, Chairman, it's difficult to speak about it in general terms because the covenant may well apply to individual assets and there may well be different covenants for different assets too. I suspect it will be in the terms of there's a covenant there, but if you were to go back to the council or the successor council for a discussion, they may well release the covenant subject to. I should point out, of course, that the assets are being transferred at nil value. Yeah. So the relevance of the covenant there is that had the covenant not been there and we were disposing or transfer them for another use other than they are currently used for, then the value may well be different. So you know as well as I do, if it's residential value, that piece of land will have a different value than if it was a car park. So yes, the covenant is there for that purpose, for there to be a discussion at a point in future when you or other town and parish councils come back and say, we'd like some of it for this use. The value, therefore, may need to be taken into consideration at that point.
Okay, understand, thank you.
Councillor Sarah Coburn-Travis.
I'd like to ask about number 59. We've been on a site visit there, which is the old destructor yard, garage site of Burnley Road. It's in white, but we were of the impression in Cone that it was on the list for transferring.
It's on the list, it's just not in this wave of assets. So it's not saying we're not going to consider it.
Right.
But there may be certain things around it that have meant it's a bit more complex even than some of the ones we've got here. So we do anticipate another wave of assets for transfer coming forward.
Okay.
That may or may not be on the list depending where we get to with it and understanding the complexities of it.
And I would just like to make the point that obviously you, as an accountant, keep talking about them as assets, and some of them indubitably are, and some of them may be assets if they have different use cases. But nearly all of them are a cost, because there are little bits of patches of land that need mowing, there are little bits of community whatever that need caring for, they're car parks. They're only assets if you, I don't know, sell them to McDonald's. Otherwise, if they're in community benefit, they're a cost. They're not really an asset. They're just for us all to use and enjoy as part of what you expect councils to do, which is provide services for residents.
A few of my colleagues on my left will vouch for me saying something very similar at times.
Thank you for that. Councillor Hanif.
Chair, two things, please. On the covenant, when we do transfer this, when we did this the first time 10, 12 years ago, we put 10 years on everything we transferred. Okay, so after 10 years, obviously, whatever. The town and parish councils, if they want to do something, they can. Are we still sticking to 10 years?
I don't think we are. Yeah, sorry, I don't believe we are. I think it's just a covenant, there's no time limit on it. It doesn't prevent town and parish councils coming back and having a discussion with successor councils.
Yeah, I think the issue there is that because we've been doing this, and this is Pendle, but obviously with the LGR coming along, it'll be different people, and none of the other East Lancashire authorities are doing anything like what we're doing. I think it'll be just for parish and town councils, it's going to become complicated. I don't think many, I mean, for example, in Blythefield, we're not going to do anything, but I think the issue is, if in the future there is the town of parish wants to do something, I think we should put a time limit on, because that's what we did last time, and the precedent is set when we transfer the town hall, the community centre, and various other things in Nelson and Barlick and wherever it is. So I think it should not be unlimited, Chair. I think it should be, somebody mentioned to me 10, 15 years, I thought, why are we changing it when we originally did it for 10 years? I think we should have a time limit on. Okay, because these are all responsible organisations. We might not be there, but there will be other town and parish councillors there, and obviously if they're working with us to take this on and keep it for the community, then they should be trusted to make good judgments at that time. So I don't think there should be there should be time limit. I'm going to suggest 10 years, Chair, because that's what we did last time. And those were the big, so Court Town Hall, Bradfield Town Hall, the big buildings, the big things all went, okay? So that's my first one. The second one is looking from a town council perspective, the asset values. Because obviously one of the things we got to do, I'm now talking as a town councillor, Bradfield town councillor, and every year for audit purposes, we've got to give them the asset value. So are these the asset value which we're going to suggest to the insurance companies that for example, the Mugga in Bradfield, it's worth £25,000, for example. Is this the asset value we can use, or are you going to help us? I'm just trying to get some guidance here.
So
Chief Executive
just in terms of the 10-year time, bear in mind you have already decided to dispose of a good number of, I think it's 78 assets already without any time limit on it. So that would be a departure from what you've already agreed. So my suggestion with that is not to do that. In terms of the value that's shown in here, that's the council's book value. That's its use and its value in its current use and all of that stuff. It's not an insurance value. That will be something completely different. My suggestion to you is you will need to determine that yourselves and agree that with your insurers. And I say that in the context of, for example, this building may be valued in our books at £1 million, but if we were to rebuild it, it wouldn't cost £1 million. It would be £5 million or something like that. So really, over to you on your insurance values, Matafio.
Because the reason why we raised this that when we did the last transfers, I'm talking about big because I deal with the insurance for the town council. We've actually used that book value, and we have always used the book value, and the insurance companies have accepted that. So it just now reading it, obviously that question came to mind. Talking about the covenant, I know you mentioned it says 70/80. I don't think this process is going to identify, then transfer everything, and documents are now going to town and parish councils, the legal documents saying what it is, and you obviously advising the town and parish councils to get their own solicitors and get the checks done. So this is the right time, obviously, to discuss this, and I think that there should be a time limit, Chair. I'm talking from a town council perspective, because Pender Council isn't here. And this is my biggest worry here, that all of us have the understanding, we come from the same mindset wherever we are. But if you talk about LGR, you're going to have different people there, different mindsets, different things like this. And I think I'm just looking at the worst scenario, that any town or parish council, small or big, could be put in a limbo. So I'm looking at 10, 15 years ahead. So I think that's something we might not want to decide now. I'm not going to ask you to, I'm not going to force it down here, but I think that that's something we need to make a decision on. Yeah. Maybe next executive, maybe whenever, let's give officers a chance to think and talk about it.
Yeah, no, that's fair comments. I think there's two things. I think the one thing obviously Dean's touched on is, you could, if you've got a covenant, you can always bring it back to the council in whatever form that may be in. So that's understandable. And I think the other thing is, we just need to think it through, further down the line, because we've already made a decision on quite a few, about 70, 80 decisions already taken. This executive has, and as a council, and so I think we just have to have that be a fairness approach in that sense. So that's something that we can maybe revisit in the future. I don't think how we look into that. So all those in favour? Yeah, thank you. So the next item is Trafalgar House. So if I can ask Hanif to chair this. Yes, because I'm a member for Pembroke. So thank you.
Eventually we got ready when we can chair this our meeting ourselves. So thank you. Obviously the next item is item 5 Trafalgar Square. And And this is obviously recommending that that we agree the contractors. And I think the second bullet point is obviously approve a waiver. Any comments, observations, colleagues? Madam?
I know that I've lost the argument on this, but to me, seeing almost £400,000 to knock down a Victorian building in a conservation area is not only sort of against recycling, green principles and the love of heritage, it's literally heartbreaking. And you just think what £400,000 or £380,000 plus VAT we could spend it on instead. It's just terribly sad. I know that planning permission has been granted. I know that this is going ahead, but I have been saying the same thing for a decade or so, so you'd expect me to carry on saying it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Sarah's stolen a little bit of my thunder.
Sorry.
And I'm going to say exactly the same thing. I've sat in this room. That building still exists. It can still exist. You could choose to appoint a different contractor altogether and have that building restored to its former glory. It doesn't need to be demolished. There's been such a strength of feeling across Pendle, not just with Nelson residents, but this is literally destroying the heritage of Nelson. And so it would be remiss of me not to say the same thing again, because my stance on this building has not changed. It's an important asset to the people of Pendle, not just Nelson, and it should be retained.
Thank you. David?
Just one quick one. The table at the top of page 3. Obviously, we've got where the money's coming from, the 2.26 million. Just remind me what the lines 2 and 3 of the relocation properties environment and the PRSC environment are. Where's that money come from, and does that have any impact on any other projects or such like that we had in mind for those monies?
This project has been funded by the Nelson Town deal. So the Nelson Town deal, when it's originally constructed, had allocations for various projects, and all that's doing is moving money from projects, one of which was the relocation properties, and the other is Pendle Rise, into this project. So it's just simply a movement of the grant money into this project.
And that doesn't have any impact on the relocation properties or the Pendle Rise? There was surplus.
Fully budgeted for,
right,
as we understand it.
Thank you, David. Can I move this proposal?
Yeah, can I second it?
All in favour? Thank you very much. Now we can have all agenda items so quick, we will be go home soon.
The next item is Harding Place Impact Fund and UK Prosperity Fund. So again, thank you for this. I'll, as leader and portfolio holder, I'll move the report as set out with with the recommendations 2.1. Sorry, wrong one. Just bear with me. Okay. I just move the recommendations as set out 2.1, 2.2, 2.3 and 2.4. I think that we've done again extensive consultations with all the different partner organisations, the town and parish councils. So yeah, I'm happy to proceed. I think time is kind of ticking, if you will. We've got a limited time to kind of deliver on these projects, and it's really important that we kind of crack on and deliver as soon as we can, with all the funding now being released and need to make progress. I think half of that has already been done, or projects are moving forward, but the half that's remaining we need to actually crack on. Councillor Hanif.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I second your proposal, Chair. I know in Blackfield, obviously, we've done quite a bit of change, and obviously it's all suggested in here. The time is of the essence. 31st of March is around the corner, and we need to obviously get on with this because there's a lot of work to be done. So, yeah, let's move it. Yes.
Councillor David Corbyn-Price.
Just a couple of points. Obviously, you see in 3.6, I was given a job by Cone Area Committee to look at the ups and downs within our budget overall. So we managed to find allocations for those. That's all fine. I think Ryan will be happy to see that in 3.11, it looks like the War Memorial Works, according to item 18 on the agenda, the tenders, might come in even cheaper. So excellent. We love a bidding process that comes in. Hopefully they've removed the stainless steel we thought was not correct within that. So yeah, there might well be some more unders and overs in there and ways to move monies around. So that's good. Indeed. And I think in terms of delivery, you say yes, it's important, but obviously we've still got a £26 million capital budget that we want to get spent as well, which is much, much bigger than this in terms of making a difference to the area. But I appreciate the sentiment. One tiny amendment as well for you, Ryan. On the back page, you've got a number of projects that are allocated to Lancashire Bridge. So the second, third and fourth ones are all cone-based rather than Lancashire Bridge-based.
Which bit's that?
You've got the SEAG one, the Millennium Green, and the unlocking on the very, very back page of the table.
It's like on the table.
Very, very
I'll
back.
look at that. Yeah, it's maybe just accidentally copied the wording or something. Thank you.
But yeah, that's all.
Okay. All those in favour? Thank you. The next item is car parking strategy, Nelson. Councillor Dot? Oh, sorry, Brian. Sorry, Brian. Councillor Newman, do you want to move the report?
Yeah. Yeah, I'll move this. Yeah.
Councillor Ali.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I'll second the report, and I do have just a couple of remarks in relation to the report. There were, I invite some of the recommendations, by the way. Nelson's accessible Nelson scheme has been on the news for many different reasons. So it's good to see that we're trying to actually create car parking where some people feel that they've lost car parking as well. Also, the recommendation for the executive to approve the space down at Charles Street, Scotland Road. There was a site there that we declared surplus to requirements. So I think that will be welcome news to the residents in that area and some of the users of that area for additional parking space. There were discussions, Leader, around the parking space by the pharmacy and the mosque on Every Street, and currently it's a short stay car park, and I was part of a working group where there was a discussion of it potentially being a long stay car park, and obviously I stood against that recommendation. I just want to ask officers if that's come back to light, because I would still stand by my suggestion that it should remain as a short stay car park for the convenience of the users of the pharmacy, mosque, Silverman Hall, and the other. It's not in the report, you're right, I haven't seen it. That's fine, thank you, Dean. But other than that, I second the report and I invite the recommendations. Thank you.
Councillor David.
Well, I'm pleased in para 2.3 that what we call the Ace Centre car park, but is actually the new Brown Street car park, it's going long stay, because the number of times I've come to this council chamber and we had to have all day meetings for things like local plans or whatever, and the race to get to some long stay parking spot somewhere that's within a few hundred yards of this building has always been a challenge. So I'm pleased that they're going long stay.
I think
All those in favour? Thank you. Next item is digital approach for elected members. Councillor Hammer.
Chair. Yeah, I'm happy to propose for this report.
Thank you. Councillor Hanif.
Yeah, Chair. I'm going to second it, but I've got an observation on this, please. Now, I know this is the way forward, and things like. But personally, people like myself and Dot, and various others, to be honest, we prefer paper. I do, because I can then read it, things like this. That small thing is not going to help me anything. So I think in the main, I'm going to say yes, but I think there should be an option if the council wants documentation, then they can have it. Because obviously we're going to talk about the iPads and things like this in my report later on. So I'll mention the other comments there, please. Otherwise, I'm happy with that.
Okay. Councillor Lord.
Councillor Hanif, I can go digital. I'm very good at that. I'm very good at that.
I take it back. I take it back.
Some people just like counting paper.
Councillor Foreman.
I would support this too, and I think obviously it is the way the world is going, but I would like an exemption for me. I've got terrible eyes. My retina linings have peeled away, and I can't read for a long. I mean, you look at this stack of papers that I've spent 2 days on reading these. I could not read this on an iPad for that length of time. So we have an inestimable postman called Jamie, the third most senior postman in Pendle, he tells us. And so we don't have any problems. The CPs don't have any problems with paper. I know this is the way the world's going, but when you're dealing with something that thick, that's just the rest of the meeting to come. I'm afraid that it is too much for me, though Dorothy is all over it. It's fine.
Councillor David.
Yeah, I think it's one of those ones whereby there will be times when, for example, if we're reading Neil's next version of the local plan and it's 300 pages long or whatever, the ability to cross-reference page 26 with page 212 is going to be a bit of a challenge on an iPad. Flicking through there, maybe picking a page, yeah. So again, there may be exceptions for certain things to have some printed options. I think also... you mentioned 7.1, the spec, obviously iPad, protective case, all that kind of thing, and an agreement to use it wisely, etc. It is possible to connect iPads to monitors and things, so we could have a top, an extended display, etc. So I'm assuming the council would fund adapters and leads and possibly a monitor and that kind of thing to associate with it. Facilitate access. We could have multiple displays, couldn't we? This could be an empire. This could be magnificent. And just one other thing, 4.3 then, any lessons learned by the more digitally enabled neighbouring boroughs? Did they have any particular lessons which we should bear in mind?
My understanding is majority of the neighbouring authorities do have gone digital some time back. And I think is again, it's been touched on by colleagues that, we move with time, and now with LGR happening, you're going to have that wider footprint where, it's really important that, we go digital. But completely take on board, the points have been made about having the paper copies for, whatever reason. I'm sure they could be, it'll be, they can kind of accommodate those. Councillor Ash Sutcliffe.
Thanks for remembering my name. Thanks.
Looking up on his iPad. He's on the front of the agenda, on the minutes.
When I was elected to the county council in the middle of COVID, we were sort of thrust into the digital age because you kind of had to. And I quickly learned that using things like modern.gov and using the digital services was actually fantastic. It was really good because you could get up-to-date things. And I think we've all sat in planning committees, particularly where you walk into the room and there's a planning update on the desk on paper. Well, you get that immediately. So it saves Jane having to email things around, or any of her team, sending these updates to us. It just automatically appears on your iPad. And it's really useful to have. But it should be a choice. It should be accessibility for all of us that have different needs to access the different services that we need to use. And I think digital should be first, with adaptations and exclusions, however you want to term it, given to councillors as a second option. But having read the report at 7.1, it does say that we're not going to be using modern.gov, which is the sort of UK standard in British local politics. So it would be useful to know why, rather than just cost, because I think that surely there should be some sort of transition into LGR that accepts that in any new authority, I would imagine that they use modern. So I don't want to... I mean, I'm fairly sort of proficient in digital services. You can adapt to a new app or a new system fairly well. For people who end up having to have any sort of training on a particular system, to then have to learn a new system if they were elected to the new authority, then it could become an issue. And I think it would just be more streamlined if we could use modern from the outset. But I can see Dean's itching to tell me why, other than and please don't tell me it's just because you're an accountant you don't like spending money.
I mean, I'm not too familiar with modern.gov.uk, but my understanding, before being Dean, I think my understanding is obviously, from my personal use, you've got a direct link to our own website, because most, if not all, of our meetings are, well, they are all public meetings. So it's you've got like a direct tab into the public, your meetings kind of page, and you can select all the different kind of items on there. And I know you can do something similar with that on the modern.gov as well. But
it is totally different, and it really does feel like having the paper version in front of you. It is so scrollable, and you can annotate it and all sorts of things.
Yeah.
So it is like being able to scribble on the paper. So, but yeah, I mean.
Yeah, well, through you, Chair, it's not because of the cost. I think it's more to do with where we are in the context of where LGR is. I don't think there's time to do it in a good way, in fairness. We could embark on that kind of project, but the likelihood it wouldn't come in, and then we'd have to think about how do we transfer that then into the new council. Yeah. And I just think that creates a lot more work than I think we probably need, given all of the other things that need to do with LGR. Part of this approach is to get councillors ready, because coming back to the point of having a choice, in the other councils, because I have experienced it, there isn't a choice. You're on the digital stuff and that's it. There isn't a paper copy because they don't have people who print them. It's as simple as that. So whilst we can work with people about accessibility, it's a fair thing to say that different people can do things in different ways. I want to minimise how much paper we're still printing, in all honesty. And I think, for those councillors that do end up being on the new council, it will serve you well, trust me, to get on there as quickly as possible and be doing it in that way, because that will be, as you said, the way of the new world, in all honesty. So this is, even doing this is going to take a bit of time to get there. So I don't think it's going to happen overnight. But we want to get there as quickly as possible. And as I say, it is about making councillors better, so that they're prepared for the new world, should they be part of it, of course. Yeah.
Thank you, Councillor Hanif.
Yeah, just a minor comment. If you're going to buy these iPads, I think one request with officers is that I like making notes, things like this. So we need to have something which we can. I've seen colleagues. I've never used one, so I would not use it. But I've seen colleagues write on there, and they actually writes and makes notes on it. So whatever we buy and whatever we give to councillors, we should be able to write on it. So it's important. Otherwise, I'll be still carrying paperwork. So I've got 2.1, 2.2, whatever that is. So please. Okay.
Take that on board as well. But I think, from my experience, I think we might have to explore some programs like Good Notes or something, because that is more, exactly what you, Councillor Hanif, is saying. Is it's a lot more user friendly to make notes and changes and all that kind of thing. But it's something we need to explore in the limited time we've got. Yeah, or maybe when the new council comes. All those in favour? Thank you. So the next item is developing the local plan, establishing a local plan working group. If I can ask Neil to kind of just give us a bit of a...
Thank you, Chairman. As we know, because the Executive considered the matter in May, we're embarking, we're currently out on a scoping exercise for the new local plan. It's quite a prescriptive where the government have chosen to take things forward. We've got a new national planning policy framework which was issued a week ago on Monday. There's quite a lot of moving parts to the new plan, with spatial development strategies, LGR coming along, and clearly we need to have the best links we can with members without constantly bringing reports back to the Executive. The Last local plan worked well with the working group that we had, and we want to establish something similar, and we're suggesting that a working group which is politically balanced, because obviously the local plan will impact on every part of the community, is the best way forward. So that's the proposal that a working group is set up.
Thank you, Neil. Yeah, I'm obviously got apologies, I think, from Lola, so I'll move the Councillor Lola, so I'll move the report and the recommendations are set out. Like Neil, you say, we've been asked by the government to do a new local plan, even though we are going into the new LGR. But it is what it is. We've got to do the works. I mean, once the new unitary comes into being, the government might ask us to kind of do up another new local plan. But like I say, it's got to be done. We just completed one, so it's got to be done. So yeah, I'll move the recommendation. Councillor Hanif.
I'll second the chair, but I'll just make the comment. To be honest, I don't know what to say with this. We just obviously we got 16 months left. They're going to make officers do all this work again, and then on the 1st of April 2028, they're going to start all over again. Okay, what a waste of money. What a waste of officer time, total money. This is not going to be cheap. £108,000, something like this. Is that right, Neil?
Triple that.
Triple that, okay. And that money could be. It's not that. Excuse me. That's not in the report. It's only 108,000, if you don't mind. Okay. But on a serious note, this is total. I know we got to do it because we've been told to do it. But I'll tell you something. This is where governments really do waste money, but because we've got to do it, I'll second the movie, and let's get on with it.
Thank you. Councillor Sarah Coburn-Price.
I couldn't agree with both of you more. We all feel the sheer misery of this, perhaps not as much as John Holton or Neil. It is ridiculous. Obviously, the whole point of a unitary is that there is a connected strategic plan looking at where growth should go, looking at infrastructure, jobs, economy, all of these things where the demand is. And instead, they're making us, when we've just finished a really excellent plan, if I might say, to work in a little silo without cooperation with our neighbours, to work away pointlessly and at vast expense, and which we will do with good spirit because we have no choice. We asked the government whether we could delay. They said no. So we must progress. We have no choice. But it just goes to show when people talk about waste in government, this is a prime example.
Thank you. Councillor Dave Coburn-Price.
Just one quick follow-up question. Obviously, we've got a 30-month time frame to do it, but within 16 months, whatever, then we'll have moved on to the unitary setup. What are the other Pennine Lancashire councils doing in terms of their plans, and are they in a similar sort of time frame and be part completed by the time LGR takes place? So we're all in the same boat, or is it just one or two of us in isolation?
Chairman, they're in different positions. Blackburn, for example, don't have to prepare a plan. Burnley have just gone into an undersupply for 5 years, so they have to now prepare a plan. They're 3 months down the road from us. Rosendale are voluntarily going to do one. Hyndburn are in the same position as us. So we have been meeting with them to try and get a sensible way forward with an evidence base and potentially combining a plan. But you can tell we're all in a not fractious position, but different positions, and we're trying to draw that together. But professionally, my view is the same. It doesn't make sense to do what we're doing. It's not the best, in my view, use of resources, but we are obliged to do it under the regulations.
Okay. Sorry, Councillor Newman.
I'm sure Pennine Council have far better things to do with the money that it's going to take, and the time, and the personal input that everybody has to put. So yes, I'm really disappointed with this, really. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. All those in favour? Thank you. The next item is the Playground Fund. Councillor Zafrali.
As the report suggests, some welcome and good news for 3 of Nelson's playgrounds, which are in much needed state of attention. There's a funding of £270,000 which was announced and granted to Pendle Council. Nelson Town Council will also be funding some further match funding, I believe, in relation to Poplar Street and the play area there. And you know, the criteria for the playgrounds and the review of the playgrounds has meant that these three have been identified as the ones in much need of attention. So we welcome the news for the funding, and you know, as colleagues no doubt will be aware, and of course the residents of Nelson will be aware. You know, Nelson Town Council already picks up the tab for a majority of the town's playgrounds and muggers, and it means that. You know, as LGR continues and more of those services are going to be going over to Nelson Town Council, no doubt Nelson Town Council doesn't have an endless budget when it comes to maintaining and ongoing development and investment. So it's welcome news like this that ensures that we aren't left behind, because we have the biggest town in the borough and of course the biggest liabilities in the borough when it comes to our assets. So it's welcome news, and I thank yourself as leader for announcing the news as well.
Thank you for that. Lastly, it's a team effort, and yeah, I'll second the proposals and recommendations. I think it's great to have secured this funding, and it's much needed. I think most of the others in partnership working with Nelson Town Council and other town councils throughout Pendle, being able to maintain and do some great playgrounds within within the community or within the parks. So yeah, it's great news. All those in favour? Thank you. Next item is the strategic performance report Q1. Councillor Hanif.
Thank you, Chair. Before I obviously start on the report, can I just make an observation here? It's the first time we got a report which is combined. And to be honest, I'm not in favour of this. I want the future reports to be separate. Finance report to be separate, and the and the other one separate. That makes life a lot easier, and for me to understand it, I think that's what we should be doing. So looking at item 10, obviously the financial performance. So looking at the revenue budget, we got obviously at the 2nd of March 26, we got £19.59 million. An additional budget of £100,000 was agreed in March. But obviously we've got a slippage of £0.27 million. And a further revenue grant slippage of £1.74 million. So this brings the total revenue budget to £21.7 million. Okay, at the end of Q1, the year-end position was that we're going to be overspent by £0.19 million. And if you look at Appendix D, that's what it details. Now the details of the overspent is highlighted in 10.3. And I want to highlight three particular ones so colleagues can understand this. The first one is obviously 10.32, which is the £97,000. Now, and the next one after that is property services, £92,000, which is 10.33 and 10.34. And the other one is a smaller amount, which is for information technology for Liberata, which is £15,000. That is 10.35. So obviously, I don't want to go into the details. It explains everything on 10.3 onwards. If you then move on to savings, now obviously our savings table is there. Three things were identified which we have made savings, except the in-house delivery of trade waste food service, which was £30,000, which we haven't met, and I think that will be difficult to meet. So far we haven't met it, but obviously David is working on it to meet it. Let's see how that goes along. But the use of reserves is again item on Appendix D, and is £0.776 million. Now if you look at Appendix D, the detail is all there, I don't want to go through that because obviously all the information is there. The relevant one for ourselves is a 10.7 statement of accounts. The draft statement of accounts for last year was published on Tuesday 30th of June. The external auditors now are obviously going through this, and hopefully they will report their findings by end of November this year. The Penda joint venture companies, I think, is as per the report. No major changes. I think there's a £40,000 difference somewhere, but apart from that, is as we know it already. If you move on to the capital programme, 10.10 in particular, the capital programme has increased from £5.1 million to I think £23.437 million. And the £16.3 million was a slippage from last year. I think before David picks it up, he says 25-25. It should be 25-26 on 10.10. Okay, David, obviously, so before you pick it up. Now, obviously, the details of those are on the 5 things. I think they're very explanatory. We've discussed them before. I don't want to be repeating, obviously, all that, Chair. Moving on to 10.11, there's some minor changes in, obviously, Appendix E, which is not that obviously big issue here. Now, this is Appendix C. Now, yeah, there are 3 things for colleagues to look at Appendix E, which is B11, £152,000. And that's for the corporate management. Okay, that's already in the scheme. I'm just going to highlight the big figures and not the smaller figures. B13 is £65,000, and that is in the planning policy department. And the next one is another in the planning department, £108,000. That's what we've allocated for what we just discussed, the next new plan. And the final one, Chair, there is, the final one there is B17, £942,000, which is obviously in service department, and it's all about the asylum seekers and everything else, all the money which we've accrued, all these issues we have known about before, so it's not something new. I just want to highlight it so all his colleagues are there. The key recommendation out of all this is that we've been asked to give another £50,000, which obviously I suggest we do. I'm moving the recommendation of giving £50,000 for ICT strategy and delivery plan. That's 10.12. Okay. Now the report I've got. So apart from that, they obviously all the details, but the decision we need to make is on the £50,000. So I'm proposing we accept officer recommendation, and thanks to officers for going through all these details. And I tell you, I'm impressed, but there's a lot of work there. So when I do talk to our boss over here, Madam, okay, she goes in quite in detail. So thank you for that. It's getting my better understanding. And we've started, before David starts saying anything, we've started finding the spelling mistakes as well. So that's my chair version of it. Thank you.
I think the proposal is to send all these reports. I think the proposal is to send all these digital reports by email to you only.
Thank you.
Councillor Ammer.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, can I second this report and the recommendation set out?
Councillor David Corbyn-Price.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Hanif. That was an excellent briefing and introduction there. You obviously covered some of the points I was going to cover anyway, so that's good. And yes, imagine trying to read this on an iPad. That would not be fun, would it? On section 10.3, obviously you run through the various things which link into Appendix D and the overspend we've had so far in Q1. Chief officers got an extra 0.1%. My word. Is there anything in Q2 that is materialising which would make the variance so far a little bit worse or better? That's my first question.
No.
Good, okay. In terms of the capital programme, I think the points about the fact about where our money is and where our borrowing is, we've covered those when we looked at things like Treasury reports before. So I think, as I said before, it's this case of saying, let's get these projects moving. I noticed in the big tables at the back, in Appendix E, for example, there's not a lot of spend/commitment across the whole portfolio, smallish pounds, smallish percentages compared to what we've actually got in the pot. You know, and with projects like Pendle Rise and the Nelson Town deal, etc., going ahead, I hope we don't lose focus on some of the other ones and get them done, because some of them are in their last dying days, as it were, being finished off. And I think there is a tiny spelling mistake on the word.
I spotted it.
The word Marsden, C2B96. There's an S missing there. Love it. Now, in terms of moving on from the finance bit, we had a good session at Overview and Scrutiny the other night on the performance summary. So when it comes to the corporate plan, the sort of left-hand column there, there's a couple of areas which we're going to take forwards and have a look at, which is 2.05, all on the behaviour changes in terms of campaigns and such like. So although the report touches on it on page 3, where it talks about some of the campaigns that have already been run, we want to dig a little bit deeper in ONS just to understand what's been going on, what resources are being done, what messages are being given, and the different styles, because we know, an adult reading it on Facebook is different from a child on TikTok. Could be vice versa, but not likely. So, understanding the way messages are got across there is something we want to dig a bit deeper into. And a question on 3.08E, which is all about the Homes England money. So Homes England just announced that there's going to be a total of £39 billion given away to various associations to deliver affordable and social housing, etc. I noticed that in the list published by the government that Accent and Together Housing are in line for £500 million, which is a tasty amount. So I just wonder if we know any more about what impact that might have on our area.
To the Chairman. So Accent, probably nothing. Together Housing, as I understand it, there's probably one scheme in Barnoldswick, but I've asked the question. The person who's responsible for it is on leave at present, due to return next week. But I think we'd asked before because they had to bid for the money. It isn't. So we're just inquiring about which schemes in particular are in Pendle. Of course, it is subject to land supply and all of that, and viable sites and the like. I think also in the pot of money, there may well be the potential for this council to bid for some money, because it's been open to some councils. I just need to explore that a bit more and see whether the opportunity exists or not. Bearing in mind it's for affordable housing, and that's a different beast altogether.
It is, yeah. I mean, I know our local plan that we all love from December. I know that had a number of potential plans there, which people like Together could be the ones to deliver. So, yeah, let's hope we get some share of the cake on that one. On the right-hand column, the KPIs, we had a good look through all of those, and obviously I'm aware of those from the meetings we have with Liberator when we challenged them on the various, how quickly do you answer the phone, etc. I think we had a few which we thought we could probably, if you think about what we as councillors get a lot of feedback on, and a lot of comments/complaints from people, we get things like bulky waste stats. So bulky waste, how many slots are there? Are they all being taken up, etc.? That sort of idea would be good. That's something that the council provides. Are we getting the best value from it? Is it worth a KPI to say we're aiming for this number? So we as councils have something to say back to residents about how available that sort of service is. We also thought about potentially grant applications. Again, I think from a climate emergency point of view, as well as other things, the idea to bid for money, it's having the right resources available. I know, for example, we wanted to pursue an Arts Council grant, but was told that the member of the team had been diverted onto to LGR projects. So that sort of avenue was closed to us there. So what is happening in terms of grant applications? Is there something we can do in terms of a KPI on that one? Given a lot of focus everywhere on empty homes, and homes left for a while, and obviously we've got our capital money set aside for repossessions and such like, and we've got a paper coming later about the actions that Sarah and her team are taking. Maybe there's some sort of KPI around empty homes. Let's see that coming down. Let's give us something to aim for there, and see we've got the right resources for it. And councillors, how about we have a KPI on training? Have we all done the training? Have we all signed off on training? What about meeting attendances? You get that on an LCC quite a lot, don't you, in terms of, you know, who's attended what and how many and what percentage and whatever. So again, when somebody says to us, what have you done? Have you attended or whatever? We could have something which says this is what we've done and this is how we're attending. So again, some sort of thing to aim for. I'm not suggesting league tables. I'm not suggesting, you know, promotions, relegations or anything like that, but... and the only other one was sickness data. We see a lot of things are written about that. And I know the sickness things, a lot of it's distorted by a few long-term people who are off. And I know there's an effort made to split it short-term, long-term. We just thought possibly present it in another new graph way, perhaps. You know, so number of people with 0 days is quite a lot. People with 1 day, 2 days, and a few people with a lot of days. So it sort of, again, brings it to life to understand how healthy our workforce is and how they love coming to work, as opposed to, you know, a couple of people we're looking after in terms of long-term sickness. So they should come through on the ONS meeting minutes for your perusal. But that's a quick heads up for you all.
I'm very excited to hear that Pendle Council can bid into the £39 billion. Oh.
I said there may well be an opportunity to bid for funding.
Bid for funding?
Not necessarily the £39 billion.
No, I'm not suggesting we're going to get £39 billion.
No, I didn't see that pot.
No, the pot. The pot. Yes, absolutely. Because the neighbourhood plan put sites into the current local plan, but also we had sites that were not put forward because they weren't viable. But of course, if there was funding from Angela Rayner, it could be a total game changer. Plus, of course, we are working on our update to our Cone neighbourhood plan. And one of the things that we are now doing is finding new sites. And perhaps they're sites that Mr. Watson doesn't know about yet. Who knows? He might be excited by them. I don't know. We've been speaking to people. So it's possible that if you know, we should have a conversation with our planning advisor to see if any of these would be the kinds of sustainable sites that could be put forward that are the kinds of things that the government wants for social housing. I would absolutely love that. If it could make non-viable things in our town centre viable, that would be good for Cone, it would increase footfall in the town, and it would be good for families. So if we can do it, I would love to be part of it and I would love to help.
Okay. Okay, all those in favour? Thank you. Let's go. Okay, the next item is updated risk management strategy. Councillor Armour.
Thank you very much, Chair. Yeah, this report provides an update of the updated risk management strategy. So can I go with the recommendations set out? So it's adopted. So adopted, please.
I'll second the Chair.
Okay, Councillor Corbyn, please.
Thank you for that. So, Councillor Armour, here's a question for you. What's your risk appetite as the portfolio holder of this? If you look at page 17, you get to choose where you are and whether you're in accordance with the council, who describe themselves as open. Are you more cautious or are you more hungry than open?
With colleagues like yourself, I'll say more cautious.
It's all a bit of a balance is required, isn't it?
Yes.
I think it's right. I mean, we look at this. We saw in the previous paper there's the grid with all the reds, greens, and ambers, etc. And I think when you do these sorts of reports, I know I always comment on the fact that we often appear a little pessimistic. I'm obviously heading a bit hungry there, for example. But I know, for example, you know, on page 18 to 20, we run through the various scales of impact and how likely it is. I know for several years everyone kept saying that another COVID thing was probably likely and it would be catastrophic, and you thought, well, is it really likely? You know, we've got all vaccines, etc. All those sorts of things people can be particularly pessimistic on, and I keep saying, well, if we've got something where we have a control in place, therefore we're accepting whatever the risk score is right now. And I think whenever I do these at work, I always think to myself, well, in the end column, which is what other things can we do, that's basically your action point list. That's the things to do, to bring in, to make it even safer, even lower risk. So I think, again, when these sorts of documents are put together, if we can bear that one in mind, and if you as portfolio holder can just make sure you understand the level of challenge that could be put into that, that would be good. In terms of the, on page 10, we talk about what we as councillors are supposed to be doing and what we're responsible for to understand the strategic risks, etc. So I know we've got a corporate governance steering group, and I know we've got a risk management working group. No councillors sit on those. So I'm just wondering whether perhaps the portfolio holder might want to attend, or such as a guest, perhaps?
I think, Mr. Chair, those are officer working groups. The group that's responsible for risk management at this council from a member's perspective is the Accounts and Audit Committee, those charged with the governance of the organisation. So it's their responsibility to ensure that the risk register is properly prepared, and equally it's the responsibility of the executive here to challenge those risks given the context of the council plan and all of the actions set out in the council plan, because it's in that context that this should be read.
Yeah, understand.
Okay.
Understand.
Okay.
And I suppose as well, overview and scrutiny could review it and challenge it if necessary, I suppose, yeah. Okay. So other than that, no other comments from me.
All those in favour? Thank you. It's carried. Next item is the annual compliments and complaints policy. Councillor Hammer.
Mr. Chair, yeah, can I go with the recommendation set out for this report?
Second, Chair.
Councillor Sarah.
I read all of this, and obviously it's an encouraging and improving picture, but I was disappointed because it's called the annual compliments and complaints report. And there's lots on complaints, but I would have loved to have heard all about the lavish compliments that the council has received. There surely must have been. People write to me and I pass it on, especially to David Walker, all about, you know, well, it's a very, okay, it's a little small area, but it would be...
I think it should be here.
Yeah, we'd like to hear real quotes, like Doreen from Briarfield said, "It was amazing, my bulky waste was gone in an instant." I would love to hear more about these compliments. Let's give ourselves a pat on the back where things are good. Let's not just focus on the gloomy. That's what human nature is like.
They are, you know, passed on to the colleagues and members of staff, and if they are complaints of obviously they are kind of investigated properly and thoroughly and responded to. Councillor Lord.
Thank you. I always make a habit of sending any compliments that I receive from anything that's happened, you know, waste in the back street or whatever, and I send that to David Walker, and I always hope that he passes that on to the rest of the team, and I think we should all do that. And then that will filter through. They deserve that recognition if they've done a good job.
Thank you, Councillor
Thank you.
Davies.
Yeah, I mean, I think in the compliments table in section 9 there, it is the operational services that get the bulk of the compliments. I mean, it's a shame Neil's gone, because he even got 3 compliments. So it's a start even for the planning team there. But yes, you've answered my question in that I hope this is all passed on to any individuals concerned. It obviously forms part of their annual appraisals, etc. Going back to the complaints, sections 5 and 6. So on section 5, we've obviously got a sort of flow down from stage 1 to stage 2. 52 complaints progressed to stage 2, and then 13 of those have been referred to the Ombudsman. So are the other 39 resolved, or are they just in progress?
Chairman, I suspect, given the timing of this report, those complaints will have been resolved by now. Yeah.
Good. And then following up in section 6, we've obviously put in place several operational improvements to make the process better, inform people up front so expectations are not high or out of line. The scores have resulted in better scores. I just wondered if it would have been worth really almost having comparatives. So the numbers up above, for example, if we've improved to get to 928 complaints, what was it last year? Was it 1,000 plus? And similarly, filtering through to stage 2 and the Ombudsman, again, if there were hundreds and dozens, then again, to show tangibly and quantitatively what our improvements actually were would have been useful. So again, just to show the improvements we're making.
Thank you for that. All those in favour? Okay, the next item is proposal for a handy person service in Pendle. Can I ask, Councillor Sarah?
Thank you, Chair. So this report seeks executive approval to establish a handy person service in Pendle. So this is around practical preventative support for older, disabled, low-income residents who may struggle to undertake minor repairs and improvements. So the service is there to address minor disrepair, reduce falls and support independent living and hospital discharge, and hopefully to connect residents with wider housing and health and wellbeing services. So we have an approved allocation of £40,000 from the Crisis Resilience Fund for this year, with the potential for a further £80,000 over the following 2 years, subject to funding confirmation. So, having considered the available delivery options, the report recommends commissioning an experienced external provider under a service level agreement with eligible residents contributing £10 per hour towards labour and paying for materials at cost. This approach is intended to maximise delivery capacity whilst retaining council oversight through clear eligibility, safeguarding and quality performance requirements. The Executive is therefore asked to approve the proposed service model, charging arrangements and delegate authority required to commission and implement the scheme.
Thank you for that. Councillor Lambert.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you to Sarah for a detailed report. I think we're the only authority in East London do not have a handy person. So we did have one in 2010-11, but since then we're not. So I would go for proposal of this for a handyman person for this report, please.
Thank you for that. I'll second that. Councillor Zaffer.
Yeah, I just want to echo the remarks made by Councillor Rahman and those that are in the report. I think it's essential, given the times that we're in and the people that are going to benefit from the scheme. The funding's there as well, which is of course an important aspect, and the funding needs to be used, and why not for such a rewarding scheme as well. So I'm happy to support the recommendations.
Thank you. And I think what we could do is maybe just to get like a report or review in about 6, maybe 9 months' time, just to kind of get really feel how things are progressing, how successful the uptake and all that kind of thing, and if there's we need to do more or that kind of thing. So yeah, Councillor Sarah. Oh.
Well, I read this and I thought, it's a lengthsman, initially from the actual agenda, but the detail is not that at all. It is something that Trafford Council did a few years ago to sort of help old people stay in their homes, to help them feel secure, to prevent accidents, to help them after they come out of hospital. It's a good plan. Obviously, the Cockburn Prices will now be moving to Blackburn to benefit from being over 50 and qualifying for all of this for free. I absolutely think that we should be charging at least £10, possibly £15, because if you look at it, which I know you have, it says that £15. If you charge £15, you get 1,333 hours of handy person support, equivalent to around 667 two-hour visits, excluding materials and VAT, visits capped at 2 hours. I think it's just wonderful for all these little jobs. There's a lot of people, especially people who perhaps are married to chartered accountants who can't do little jobs. They could be benefiting from this, and it would be marvellous. My mother-in-law, Christine, my late mother-in-law, had a man called Jason. And we know that Jason absolutely fleeced poor Christine and all of her friends. He'd cornered the market in the Lytham old person. You've got to trust me, I'm Jason. We were a bit worried about Jason, weren't we? Jason was preying on Christine.
On the IT front,
yes, yes. And I think it's actually not so much affordability, though it says that this might cost up to £72 an hour. It's not just affordability, it's trust. If you're an old person, quite often you're preyed on by people who knock on the door. I can sort this, I can sort that. They don't know who to turn to. Perhaps their children live away. Having a trustworthy person provided from the council that's not going to fleece them, that will give the scope of the job before they do it, I think that's immense. I really, really do. And that's why initially I was a bit, but now I've read the report, I really welcome it. I feel, potentially, it could be too successful. So that actually, if we promote this, we'll be absolutely swamped, and the 1,333 hours will go in a week, because there'll be pent-up demand as well. But I suppose we've got to start somewhere. It's like the sort of having an empty homes officer. We've got to start somewhere. So this is a start. I wonder whether you ought to consider the £15. Also, from my perspective, though I don't know the whole ins and outs of it, looking at the different ways of controlling it, I would have gone for the sort of hybrid model. Though I know the report, I'm trying to look at the box where it comes, the hybrid model, which is option 3, joint delivery, commission core delivery through a specialist provider while maintaining referrals and oversight through the council. I know that that's work, it says additional workload, but it gives operational efficiency, strategic control and a strong partnership approach. I just wonder whether you ought to consider option 3 and whether you ought to consider charging £15 an hour to increase the availability and to help old people with trustworthy handymen, handy women, handy people.
In relation to also the £15, I think we do have a contribution from the Crisis Resilience Fund, so I think it's been moved. And secondly, that £10 is, I think it makes sense because, like I say, it might be very successful, which is what we want it to be, but there's a criteria within the framework, and people in most need, people who are vulnerable, hopefully will benefit from this. So I think it's a great scheme, and I think we'll go with the original proposal as moved. Councillor Brian Newman.
Thank you, Chair. There's an organisation in Colne called Alicia House who have this sort of organisation set up with the people. Surely we'd be better supporting something like that. That is my personal view, anyway.
Thank you. Councillor Dorothy Lord.
First of all, I hate the word old, and I wish people would stop using it and say elderly, not old. Even though I am, but yeah. It's a good scheme, is this. I mean, I'm lucky enough to have my own handyman that I call up and he comes out and perhaps charges a bit more than that, but a lot of people will benefit from this scheme, a lot of people. There's so many people that live on their own and don't have anybody else. They, don't have nobody to call on and trust. That is the main thing, trust. Yeah, thank you.
Councillor Hanif.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, obviously the scheme is good, so I'm not going to even argue with the scheme. Personally, I've been thinking quite a lot about this, and I've been in two minds. One, should we be running this as Pender Council, or should we be obviously giving a contract out somewhere else? Now, the option there, obviously, of the hybrid partnership is an option there. Now, for the first year, I'm inclined to go with the report and and go outside. But I want to put, so obviously, having experience of projects which we contract to outsiders, I'm interested in getting facts and figures, you know. So can we have a quarterly report, for example, how many people, what are people, how many people are using it, things like this, and then do a full review of the project before the next second year is continued, or we can then amend into whatever we want to do. Because when we've done things in the past, we haven't actually got the facts and figures every quarter, and then at the year end we think, why was this and why was this done? So I think because it's a new scheme, and obviously we want to try and error this, how it's going to work, we don't know yet. I'm going with the scheme. But if I could obviously say quarterly reports and do a full review after 9-10 months before we go for the second year, and then we can look at whatever options. So come back to all the options again, and if this is working well, go with it. If it's not, we can then, the scheme itself is a good scheme. So we obviously supporting the scheme and supporting Sarah in all of the work and her team do. So yeah, let's go for it.
Thank you. Councillor Davis.
Just a quick one. In the table on page 5, obviously there's reference to the fact that there are non-qualifying residents able to pay a premium for such a service. And the report doesn't say whether we should consider that, but I'm guessing we want to focus on those that qualify with our criteria first, get some stats, get some facts and figures out how popular or how in demand it is, and then we can potentially think about broadening it for a higher amount to non-qualifying residents. And you know, again, if it helps people who are under 65, not quite elderly, then you know, it's all for the good.
Thank you. All those in favour?
Are we agreeing to the obviously comments I've included?
Yeah.
Exactly. I just want Jane was asking me, so I just want to make sure. Yeah, that's fine. Chair, thank you.
Thank you. The next item is, so do you want to vote on that? Yeah. All those in favour? Thank you. Next item is the minutes of the Local Government Reorganisation Working Group. So this working group met in response to you know, our submission that was on 17th of August. It had 7 different questions, and they're within the minutes of the council. So yeah, I'll move the report. Thank you. This was just mentioned. There's a cross-working party group. Next item is Climate Emergency Working Group. Thank you. I'm just going to say, sorry.
Last month, I mentioned the minutes clearly stated that we would like the exec to agree to lobby national government for a national emergency briefing, and/or preferably also show the national emergency briefing and sign the plant-based treaty. Now, Yvonne. We discussed this at this meeting, and Yvonne said she'd be having a little word with you so that this would be dealt with by the exec. So I'm very, very hopeful that you don't just note it, you bring it forward, either you do it tonight or you bring it forward and discuss it properly as an item in your forward plan. And then the second thing that I'd like to mention is you see that the guest presentation was about nappies. And people nowadays just sort of instinctively think, because they're enormous marketing budgets, that nappies should be disposable. And I was avant-garde back in the year 2000 when I had my baby, and he had reusable nappies. And people think, oh, they must be really annoying. They must be like cotton, terry cotton with pins and things like that. No, they're not. They're really, really convenient. But more importantly, they're very, cheap. Once you've actually bought your outlay of whatever it is, 6, 7 nappies, then they last for the whole time that your child is in nappies, and in fact you can pass them on to other people. So other councils have nappy libraries, and I would be very grateful if you could consider this. There is a benefit to both Pendle Council and also LCC, because I can't remember the actual sum. I asked David Walker to calculate how much waste goes in to our bins as likely nappies, and it was a huge amount. So from a net zero ecology environmental perspective, it's a wonderful thing if we were to do this. From a we have a lot of people in poverty perspective, it's a wonderful thing to do this, because this is honestly so much cheaper than disposable nappies. Another benefit is the moisture from the urine is wicked away in Pampers or Huggies or whatever it is, and the child doesn't link the urination to a bit uncomfortable. But in cotton nappies, which are obviously have no chemicals in them, they're very good for you, they think, oh, wait a minute, this caused this. And actually you get them out of nappies in under the age of 2. So not only is it saving money for our residents, but it's better for the actual toddlers. They're ready to go to school, and it's good for the environment, and it's absolutely wonderful for sort of landfill. I just would ask that A, the National Emergency Briefing and then the Plant-Based Treaty is brought forward, and B, that we really seriously consider doing something to help our residents with a nappy library.
Thank you for that. So in relation to, obviously, you know, we bought the Climate Emergency Working Group as, you know, it's in the minutes, which we noted. The thing is, we need more time. I mean, if you look at the plant-based treaty, it's very kind of, there's lots of kind of things within that. And I think there needs to be more thought, proper thought, and more detailed research into what impact that could have on us as a council. Because, you know, there's some things that, you know, you might restrict the farmers, for example, in certain areas.
No,
and and right at the end, you know, it kind of says about, you know, like a small print, if you will. You know, we don't have to adhere to any of those points. There's about 40 odd or whatever it is. So I think we need more kind of time to think through, and, you know, we will consider that at some stage in the future. And again, in relation to the national emergency, again, that we can look at that. The other proposal about the nappy, I think, again, we just need to have a more detailed, you know, what that actually means for us as a council. We can have a look at that as well. Okay. Thank you. So the next item is fireworks. Councillor Hanif.
Thank you, Chair. Obviously, fireworks. This is an interesting topic, Chair. Now, fireworks generally are a very good thing. We obviously use them for celebrations on Guy Fawkes and New Year, things like this. But over the last few years, I think fireworks have been being used for various other celebrations, including weddings and everything else, birthday parties, whatever they are. Now, this is becoming a big issue, obviously, in the community. Now, 6 months ago, back in February, we met the police and spoke to the police and saying, look, can we, obviously the agenda was quite wide, and we met the sergeant for Prosper. And in February, we raised the issue of many things, but one of them was fireworks and the Lamborghinis and all the speeding cars. And we said to them, listen, after Ramadan, the wedding season is going to start. Could we please ask the police to focus on this and look into this? And they assured us they would. For colleagues who aren't aware, the first time we had a meeting with the police was about 9 years ago when Iqbal was the leader at Netson Police Station. All of the Labour group councillors went and had a meeting with them. And on that meeting, we also raised the issue of fireworks. So this is not a new thing we've been obviously chasing. Now, the issue arises is that when people are celebrating and having weddings, they're coming back after midnight, okay, after 11 p.m. and obviously doing the fireworks, which is affecting a lot of people, not just the elderly. Okay, is that the right word?
Yes.
Yeah, a lot of the young children, people are going to work in the morning. All the community. I myself many times have been woken up. You know, because at the middle of the night, wherever they are within 2 miles radius, it just looks like it's on your back door, because obviously the sound travels. Now, we've obviously, over this now, it's becoming a big issue. The two things, I know we just said fireworks, but it's two things we want to look at, is the fireworks, and is obviously the posh cars, the speeding cars, the noise they make, and things like this. So we need to obviously focus on both things. Now, as a council, I appreciate we don't have much powers, you know, on this. And the law says before 11 p.m. they can do fireworks. After 11 p.m. they can't do fireworks. Okay, I don't think anybody follows the law, because obviously it's not being monitored and things like this. When and like many councillors, when I've spoken to somebody in the last month, I've spoken to two weddings. I went to two weddings, which I knew of, and I spoke to them and said, "Do us a favour, please do not do fireworks upon your return." And what happened was, they said, okay, one didn't do fireworks at all. The other one did them at 5 o'clock before they set off to the wedding. Now, which is fine, okay? Now, which is something, but if you actually read Facebook and read all the different pages from Cone to Nelson and Bradfield, things like this, there's a lot of comments. People are linking this to religion, people are linking this to the culture, this has nothing to do with any of this. This is totally people celebrating fireworks, which has nothing to do with religion, which has nothing to do with culture, which has nothing to do with anything like this. What they don't realize is their celebration. You're getting married, which is fantastic. Good luck to you. Have a wonderful life. But why are you disturbing everybody else? Why are you upsetting children, dogs, cats, the elderly, people going to work in the morning? And I'm telling you now, I don't know about other colleagues, but I've got over 100 WhatsApp messages, text messages, Facebook messages coming to me. And that's one of the reasons I put this up, because I told a lot of the people, I'll make sure it's on, discuss on the executive. We need to find a way forward. Now, we as a council might not be able to find a way forward, Chair, but what's important is that we organise a meeting with partner agencies, whoever they are, police is one of them, and whoever else we think we need to, because this needs to be looked into, needs to be addressed. It's causing a massive, obviously, concern in the community, and our job is to represent the residents and to raise their concerns. If they're doing them at daytime, and that's, the law allows it. For colleagues' purposes, I've had people who said they should be doing it at all. And I'm saying, come on, there's something, if the law says you can do before 11 p.m., then obviously we haven't, or the police have no powers to stop anything. But obviously, but the focus is there. And the other one is revving of cars and having all these posh cars, middle of the night, because they hide them for a day or 2 days only, and they've spent a lot of money on these cars. They don't go to sleep. They're just revving them in side streets, in our streets, and I can hear them, and all of you who live in the areas can hear all the revving. So again, those two things are becoming a big issue. And Chair, I'm obviously suggesting as a way forward, we need to organise a meeting with partners to look at this in a very serious manner and see what we can do, obviously, before something serious happens. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Thank you. So, I've been contacted by residents over the last couple of weeks. I have been contacted previously as well, and the fireworks are being set off at no unreasonable hours and causing significant disturbance and distress to local people. And the sudden loud bangs, particularly late at night, are affecting residents' ability to sleep and are causing considerable anxiety and upset. And that's not just people, that's also, say, like, you touched on, say, like, animals as well. And this does not appear to be an isolated incident. It's been going on for quite some time. But the ongoing nature of this is having a negative impact on residents' quality of life and their ability to feel comfortable and safe in their own homes. But we are working with the police. It has to be the police that kind of leads on this. We can play our part. It's a part, you know, it's a partnership working. And I think the key thing, the way I see it, is that the public needs to come forward and say, and tell and inform the police, to, you know, where this issue is happening, what street is happening at, you know, and the time and all that kind of thing. And then the police can investigate, and, you know, if the police can be more proactive, I don't know how, you know, in some ways they can, if they have the intelligence, you know, where potentially it could happen. I know it's difficult. I'm not saying it's easy. It can, but you know, it's an ongoing work. But we need to work together with all the different partner organisations. And I've just been made aware that there's also a fireworks kind of a national government consultation taking place at this moment in time, and I think we need to feed into that as well, and you know, with our responses. So yeah, so, Councillor Sutcliffe.
Thank you. I think credit where it's due to the local Muslim community, particularly the imams that have been putting out little speeches on Facebook, little kind of quite funny little clips actually that have been quite engaging to make sure that people are aware of their rights and responsibilities when it comes to fireworks. I think that's really important that, you know, they've kind of stepped up to do that, probably to quash some of the myths that this is linked to Islam in some way. No. People like fireworks, people like the spectacle, and that's understandable. But what we're not really talking about is that you can walk into a shop and buy explosives. You know, fireworks are dangerous things. Now, if we were talking about knives, we'd talk about tighter control. If we were talking about gas bottles, we'd be talking about tighter controls. These are an explosive, dangerous thing that you can walk into a shop and buy. They're causing distress to people and animals and our communities. That's why we're talking about it now. So what can we do about it as councillors? I don't think this is the police's responsibility. The police are there to apply the law. The law says that people can set off fireworks up until 11 o'clock, and that's what people are doing. I mean, I've heard these fireworks regularly. Yes, you do hear them post 11 o'clock, but actually you hear an awful lot of them at 4, 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, whatever, and they're causing just as much distress to animals and other people as whether they set off at that time or 2 o'clock in the morning. So, in terms of what fireworks are and how they're used, I'm not against fireworks, but I think that there needs to be some tighter controls. Now, my personal opinion is that we should probably have fireworks only at organised events. Then you have to have a licence to arrange those fireworks, and you have to have a licence in order to be able to purchase them. So what can this committee do? Well, you could look at trading standards and speak to them about making sure that the people who are selling fireworks are making sure that they're tightly controlled and they're only sold to the people that are of age to buy them, and they're not falling into the hands of children where they could be extremely dangerous. We could also write to the government as part of the consultation, but I think we should also write to the government separately anyway to say that we want tighter controls on fireworks. Not that the police need to do more, but that the controls on the sale of fireworks getting into our communities needs to be tighter. So I don't believe in policing things all the time. I believe in making sure that people understand the rules and that the rules are fit for purpose. You know, as councillors, we create policy. As you know, our MPs create the laws, and I think that we should, and then the police apply those laws and control them. So I think that we need to make sure that the system is proper and fit for purpose as well. So I think that I would ask the committee if they would consider writing to the government formally, requesting, well, in my words, tighter controls on the sale and use of fireworks. But you know, I'll leave that up to you to word something up. But I think that would be an appropriate recommendation, as well as bringing people together locally. I think that's a suitable thing to do, but I don't think it'll have a very much effect if the police are saying we can't police this anyway. You know, we need to tighten what the police can actually do.
No, that's fair. I totally agree with you, everything you're saying there. I think in relation to the government, I think at this stage, it's because there's a consultation taking place. I think maybe as a council, we feed into that and make some strong recommendations there. Councillor Lord.
I agree with what Councillor Sutcliffe is saying, but people will just do what they want. You know, if you drive a car, people drive a car without tax and insurance, and that's the law to have that. You know, if there's laws Well, people just, if they want to do it, they'll do it. This is why we've got this problem. We don't have this as much in Con with the fireworks, but we do with the cars. And they'll just, whatever the law says, they'll just carry on doing it because that's what they do. They, you know, but there should be laws and you know, and it's like an off licence serving a child alcohol. That's happened. That happened last year at the Blues. So anything like that, they want to do it, they will do it. But I agree that definitely something should be put in place, but, you know, whether they'll adhere to it, I don't know. The elderly don't get involved in that stuff.
There are alternatives to these fireworks, loud bangs and what have you. There are such a thing, which in Italy is composite, that they use the silent fireworks. You get all the flash, all the bang, not the bang, all the flash, all the illumination, but you do not get the bang. And
that's a good idea.
That is something that I think we should consider when we put in the report.
Definitely.
Can I ask Dean to comment?
Yeah, just three things. I agree with Councillor Hanif. I don't think this is the first time that this council, whether it's the executive or the council, via emotion, has had to deal with fireworks as an issue. And it's tended to revolve around firework night, but it's become a bit more widespread. And we have written to the government, as I recall, on numerous occasions, which in fairness probably is maybe one part of how it's led to the consultation that's out there. So the consultation covers the sale of fireworks and some of the more dangerous fireworks, but it does also equally cover the use of them and when it's appropriate to use them and not, and what more powers can come into place. I have given the police the heads up that we want a chat with them, but it will be a multi-agency thing, so trading standards, the fire service, some community leaders, because you know you have to get that connection in there. But I think I agree with Councillor Lord. There's no easy answer to this because people just will be people sometimes, and you can't have a police person or a local government person sat on every street corner watching this stuff out. So we need to do something. I accept that. My concern, as we get in, lead up to bonfire night, that this won't get any better. So now's the time to start thinking about that. And the police do have Bright Sparks, which is a campaign that they use in the lead up to bonfire night to try to control some of this. But it will depend on people to report other people, in fairness.
Thank you. Councillor Lord?
Well, just to say that we'll be having this conversation next year, as we have every year, for years, as Dean knows.
Not the year after, though.
Okay, so yeah, thank you for that. Thank you, Councillor Lee, for bringing that up. So next item is the tenders. So we've got a few tenders there in relation to obviously the Guild Cemetery extension in Barnoldswick, the Crassus payment scheme. So I'll move the recommendations. Councillor Zafar.
Councillor Hanif seconded. I just want to make a remark on the Guild tender, adding around 10 plus years of burial to the community in that area. It's about 300 slots, so I think it's an important tender and we should be approving it, and I'll be supporting the approval.
Fantastic, and thank you for your hard work in that department. Thank you. Councillor Sarah?
Would like to say that I'm absolutely delighted to see the seemingly tiny tender by Colin Braithwaite Excavators Limited. As Cone councillors, we were heavily dismayed, highly dismayed, when the Pride in Place funding came and we were told it would be a hefty six-figure sum, and it really limited what our ambition and the projects that we could do for the town. Now it's a very reasonable sum, and perhaps it allows us to bring back some of that ambition or extend the projects that we've already got going, but that is really welcomed by Cone councillors.
All those in favour? Thank you. So the next item is items referred from area committee. The first one, well, is only one. Proposed disposal of Pendle Innovation Centre, Brook Street, Nelson. So this has been referred from Nelson Brighfield and Relay Area Committee on 3rd of August, where it was considered and it was a result that the executive be recommended to declare that the Pendle Innovation Centre, Brook Street, Nelson, surplus to requirements and placed on the open market for sale, and they're subject to the above, the Director of Resources be granted delegated authority to negotiate the sale price and terms of the disposal. I mean, I'm happy to move the recommendation, but I think it's really important that we get this right. It's quite prime location. There is a kind of a business plan that gets submitted. And I think normally we advertise for about a month, maybe from tomorrow or 4 weeks from tomorrow or something on those lines. And I think the key thing will be there to have it as for a community service, for like a community hub, bringing the community together, providing skills and education, health and well-being, and training, and providing services for people of all ages. And that means like from 0 to whoever elderly people. So yeah, I'll move the recommendation. Thank you. Councillor Sarah?
Here's a thought that might appeal to Zafar. Could this be the new HQ of Nelson Town Council with a car park? When this building is closed, he doesn't want to be kicking himself thinking, oh no, we could have had a prime town centre location for our town council ambitions. Just a thought.
So, all those in favour? Thank you. Okay, so the next item is, so the meeting will continue here. Sorry, forward plan. Getting ahead of myself. It's forward plan. Thank you. Right, yeah, brilliant, thank you. So the next item is exclusion of public and press. So the meeting will continue, but to consider excluding the press and public from the meeting during the next following item of business in pursuance of power contained in section 100A4 of the Local Government Act 1972, as amended when it is likely in view of the nature of the proceedings or the business to be transacted, and there will be disclosure exempt information which is likely to reveal the identity of an individual. So I move that we exclude public and press for the next item. Thank you. Yes.